Well, good day to everyone. Today we're going to be working on connecting and running your Superior Swim Timing console with Meet Manager, and also adding a Swimnerd custom scoreboard to that whole setup. This will be my first ever webinar, so please forgive me if it's a little rough on the edges. Just a little bit of a information about Superior Swim Timing. I do not work for Superior Swim Timing, but I've been a customer of theirs for about 14 years and running many, many meets on the platform. Its cost is very low, and the features and power that it gives you is very high. So, in my opinion, it's by far the best system out there. Nothing comes close to it. It's pretty simple to run, has a lot of advantages to it. Unlike some of the others like DAC or CTS console, the races do not exist inside of the console itself. They're written to the hard drive of your computer. And the advantage of that is when you take your computer home after a meet and you find out that there's a mistake pulling over a race, you can re-pull it from what you have on your computer. There's two ways to set it up. You can set it up in a networking environment where two computers are networked and share a directory. In one case, you'd have Meet Manager on one computer and SST on the other computer. Or and those are great for large meets like club meets that, where there's a lot of heats and things move fast, you're going to want to set it up on two computers. If you're running it for a high school or college dual meet where the pace is slow, you could actually run them both on one computer. I do that all the time. If you're not good at networking and you're in a situation where you really need to run it on two computers, the other option you can have is sign both computers into a Microsoft account, and they'll share the very same OneDrive, and you can have the data directory set to that OneDrive, and that gives you networking without actually having to setting up a network. So with that said, let me get you into setting up. At first, I'm going to share some screens and show you how to set up Meet Manager for SST and the things that you'll need to do to get that going. So I'm just going to share a screen here. Okay. So we should see our Meet Manager screen here, and the first thing you're going to want to do is set up your Meet Manager to recognize that you're running SST as a console. So you'd go to Run, Interfaces, and Setup. Choose your timing console. And when you come down to the bottom here, you'll see Generic Network File Sharing, or GNet, and several different timing platforms use that. So once you click that button and click OK, the next thing that you'll do is come in and set your data directory. This is the directory where Meet Manager will write files like the event file and your start list. So you'll come to here and you'll say update data set, update data location. And in my case, we're running a test meet, so all our files are going into the test meet, and click open. And you'll just confirm here that you have your GNet set to the C:\test meet. If it does say current meet number 2 up here, you're always going to want to go back and click to previous meet. I don't totally understand this functionality of a Meet Manager, but you need this to say current meet number one. If you're ever in a situation where you're trying to pull a race over and it says it's not found, it's because this advances to meet two. That usually happens when you have to get out of meet manager because it's having some issues, and you go back into it. It treats that same information as a totally different meet. So this always has to say meet one. You close that out, and then in the interfaces, you go back to Timer GNet and select download events to GNet. And as you can see here, it's going to create an event schedule using the events listed at the top of the run screen and to our directory that we've chosen. That's the same as downloading the events directly into the CTS or the DAX. The same thing. That's what that accomplished, and it lets you know that it wrote those that event list in. And then after you do that, and in this case, you see this meet is seated, so you want to send the start list over because SST will read the start list and know exactly who's in what lane. So you'll go to File, Export, Start List for CTS. You'll choose the directory. In our case, it's the test meet directory, and click OK. You click OK again and choose your session that you want to upload the start list. Okay, one more time, and now it lets you know that 11 event start list files are copied to the correct directory. And once you've done that, you're actually ready to run your meet. So we'll come up to the boys 200 IM. We're going to switch to SST. And so when you're in SST, when the first time you come into SST, you're going to see this window will come up first. And this is the serial scoreboard window. This is where you map out all your lanes and whether you want subtractive or cumulative splits. If you're going to be running our Aspire Swimnerd scoreboard, you'll want that set to cumulative. We will work out the subtractives automatically. All the features here. You'll open your scoreboard. In my case, it's already open. And then over here is where you'll set your lanes. In this case, we're a 6-lane, starting with lane number 1. We only have the one harness, pad and button, and we have our 6 lanes, and they match up. The cable harness matches up with the pool, so we just leave this as is. If your cable harness was opposite the pool, where lane 1 matches with lane 6, you would just click reverse. As you can see, the lanes are reversed. So we'll just undo that and set it back to normal. And then in system, you would go ahead and choose a few. I have the pad delay, it's set to 10 seconds for us. I normally have this set to 17 seconds. And your start delay, you could leave that at 6 and 1.25 for your reaction time max if you're recording reaction times. And then this finish delay here is the amount of time it'll take from the last touch to come in before SST will end the race and write the results. And it will do that automatically as long as you have start list lane disable and auto finish race. So basically, it'll know who's in what's lane. When all the touches come in, 3 seconds later, it'll write the result, and then it'll advance to the next heat or the next event. So once you're done with that, you would click finish, and then you would click file and open schedule. I've already done that, but I am going to pop into this screen here, and hopefully you can see this. And we're going to go to our directory. And this here, generic.sch, this is your event file. This is when you download your events from Meet Manager. This is the file you'll click, and SST will open up, and you'll see all the names that are in the heats. So here we are in heat 2. I've already run a couple of test heats here, so we're in heat number 3, and once you start the race, on this screen, you'll see over on the left your race number. This is race number 3 we're running. The heat and event, you can change that up until the first touch. When everything arms, it turns a bright green. You can plus or minus touch in each lane. You can put your DQs here. If someone hits the backup button in a lane too early, like so, it'll flag purple, and you can reset that, which is a pretty cool feature. You can arm the lane, the pad, and you can finish arm the pad at your. But as we start to take pad hits on the first 50, you'll see that the lanes go back to gray. They're in delay, and I have it set to 10 seconds, which is pretty quick, and they'll rearm. We'll go ahead and do our second set of touches. These kids are pretty quick. And you'll see that the running time is up in red. And once you set to final, you'll see the lap counters over here will reflect. So if you are missing a touch, you can go in and plus or minus a touch. When you get to final, it's armed final. You see that in bright red, so you know. And we'll come in and hit our pads and buttons at the same time. The last touch comes in. This was a pretty clean heat, so there were all the buttons and the pads coincided. You'll see that the running time went back to the time of day, and you can see that the heat went forward. So you're ready for the start of the next heat without any user intervention on the console at all. And since we were running race number 3, we'll come down into Meet Manager, and we'll just click race number, and we have it already set for 3, and it'll just pull your results right in. So as long as all the touches come in, that it just works, fine. So it's a pretty simple and very, very powerful. We're going to switch off to, let's go to some 50s here, so we can move a little quicker through this. And that is event, 5? No, it's 4. 6. There we go. Okay, so here you don't have a full heat when you start the race. The races with no swimmers are automatically grayed out, so you're not looking for them. In this heat, you're going to have, we'll go with, and so here you have a little bit of a touch that's off. That's race number 4. So we are going to come back into here, race 4, and you'll see that you have to make an adjustment or go to your backup times here. So it works out pretty simply. All right, so I want to get into how you set up our there's another thing I wanted to show you here before we moved on, and this is what happens in our data directory. So we go to C, and we're going to go into our test meet directory. So these gen files .gen, these are actually the race numbers. So it'll give you meet number 1, event 4, heat 1. It is a final. If it was a prelim, this would be a P, and it's race number 4, as you can see over here. These files here are the scoreboard files. These are the files that actually have the the names that you downloaded from Meet Manager. So basically a heat sheet for the SST console. And then the cool thing that that SST does is it creates additional files for each race. So if we go to race number 3, and the green ones are a text file, which are not formatted so nicely, but the but the ones that'll be set to whatever browser you have is a really nicely formatted information of everything that happened in that race. And it's pretty cool that if you have some concerns or issues about something that happened in a race and you want to look at it in a more granular way, you just double click on this and you're going to get an HTML that opens up, and it's going to say event 2, heat 3, race 3. Gives you some information on the heat start, the event start, and the heat start. Boys 2 free. It gives you the finish order, finish by lane, with the backup button information in there, finish by place, gives you reaction times if you have that set, subtractive splits in each lane, and cumulative splits. So this is a really good piece of information. Gives you a little bit more from what's happening in the console, and you can print this out. So this is a pretty cool little piece of functionality in there. And once again, these are being written into whatever directory that you set up in Meet Manager. And on the SST side, once you go to where the schedule file is and open it up, it'll write the results to that same directory. In this case, we went to the C drive test meet, and so everything gets written in the same directory. And I run a lot of meets. I run somewhere between 10 and 14 meets a year for different teams, and I create separate directories for each meet and keep all the data in there. And I usually keep it on the root directory of the C drive while I'm running the meet, and then after the meet is over, I'll move it into an archive directory. Just makes it easier to find everything that you need to find. So I'm going to switch on over to, we're going to go up to our Aspire scoreboard. So with the Aspire scoreboard, you are going to, I'm going to try to show you this on the camera. Let me get to this first. Okay. Okay. So if you see here, this is just a monitor right next to my computer that is connected to the computer with an HDMI cable. You can set this to a TV, big video board. You'll see that our Aspire scoreboard is up there, and this is the pad that I'm using as a stand-in for the pool. And here in this box here is your SST box. I'm going to move the camera down a little bit. And out of the SST box, there is going to be a splitter that this side, if you had a regular LED scoreboard, you would connect your scoreboard to this side. And this side, there's some cabling that connects to a serial port adapter. So we're taking the data that comes out of the scoreboard output from our SST. This would work the same if you were using Colorado. And we take that information and create the scoreboard. So I'm going to get back to this here. And just to show you how that would look is we would start a race. And in this scoreboard, everything on this scoreboard is customizable. You could add logos, you can move things around, you can delete information you're not using, you could add other information. There's a little template editor that does that. And of course, when you're finishing your race, you get all the information up there, and it shows all the names, the placing. So this is a pretty nifty thing, and it's pretty easy to set up. So I'm going to pop you to that. Let's get back to here. So in our Aspire software, when you pull it up, you have a lot of tabs. You'll go to the scoreboard tab, and you would go to your COM settings and choose the COM port that represents that serial port adapter that's coming out of the SST scoreboard output, and you'll set that up. Here, we'll go to the same directory. This is where we read those same scoreboard files. So we'll go to RC, test me. You won't see any files in here because we're just selecting the directory. It's not going to display files in this. You're just selecting the folder. When you click select the folder, it's going to tell you that it loaded 66 event heat combinations for that. And it also opens up a screen that you can choose some options. You could also edit all the names that are in here. So if someone, if there's a substitution, you could just come up to, let's say we're going to go into the 50 free, and you want to, that's not the 50 free, that's the heat, I'm sorry. We go here and go into 50 free, and then you can move through your heats, and you could actually change and edit these names, change any information in here. Let's say there's a substitution that's not included on the start list. You can type it in here, and that will show up. So if we were to change Hernandez to Dole, let's say, and save it, it'll end up displaying, when you run that heat, it'll display Dole up on the screen. So you can just save that, close out of it. Once you've selected that directory, you'll send your template. Here we have the 6-lane template. There's a 6-lane meet, and you'll send template to scoreboard. We currently have one open. You can hot swap them. So if you have different ones in here, you can change that just by double clicking on it, and it will actually change the scoreboard that you see. Let's see if we can get that up for you. And it actually changes now. We have a Patriot Swim Team template up there. And if I go back and hot swap it back again to our normal one, we can see that we're back to our Aspire one. So once you're in, you can hot swap them if you need to. So we'll go back to here. And once you have that set, it's just going to follow. You can minimize this. You can have this on the same computer as you have your console, which is the way I normally run it, and use the HDMI output from that computer to go to wherever you want it to go. For live results, you would first start the name of a meet, which I already have put in there, any name. You create the new event, and then you go to live results, and then you can start your live results, which is already done. And when you see this scoreboard stats, you see it's sending data. And so once we go to this, here is swimnerd.live, and you would first come up to a screen that will allow you to search for your meet. And then once you search for the meet and you pull it up, it will actually track. So I'm going to start a new race. And as you can see, there's a slight lag, but what you're getting here is a running scoreboard with all the information in it. And well, once you finish the races, it'll give you a little placing. It'll give you, if there were splits, there will be splits here. We'll run back probably to a 200, so you can see what that would look like in a longer race. The great thing about this is you access this with any device that has a browser. So your phone, a smart TV. So let's say you're running a meet and you have a hospitality room that's off the deck, or you have a snack bar that is not in view of the pool. You can set up smart TVs out there, point their browsers to this, and they'll have a running scoreboard wherever it is. You don't need to run cables or wires or anything like that. Makes it really simple to get information to places where there otherwise wouldn't be. But I'm just going to jump into here for a second and get us back to our 200s, and we're going to get up to, let's see, we're going to get to a fresh heat, and we'll show you what that looks like. So we'll start a race, and we'll get to see what it looks like when you got so you get your first touches come in. And finally, we'll get to our finished touches here in a second. And the nice thing about this is once you're here, you can go back and select you can go back and go back to earlier heats. When you go back to an earlier heat, it'll give you all of the splits. What this is really useful for is when you're coaching and you're on the pool deck, and let's say half of these kids are on your team, it gets a little bit difficult to take all the splits. Okay, I guess my sharing is off.